this conversation with her. Pastor Maiysha, I'm gonna read y'all her bio, but I'm probably gonna give a little personal bio too. So Pastor Maiysha is a dynamic and spirit-led leader serving as executive pastor at Purpose Place Church with a deep passion for seeing lives transformed through the power of Jesus Christ. She is a devoted wife to Pastor Angelo Brooks and a loving mother of three, balancing family and ministry with grace and intentionality. With a genuine heart for people, Pastor Maiysha is especially passionate about women's ministry, biblical counseling, and children's ministry. She is committed to creating spaces where women can be healed, restored, and empowered to walk confidently in their God-given identity and purpose. Her approach to ministry is both compassionate and practical, offering biblical truth with real-life application. Pastor Maiysha has a strong vision for discipleship, spiritual growth, and community impact. She is dedicated to equipping others through teaching, mentorship, and leadership development, raising up believers who are rooted in the Word and led by the Spirit. Known by her authentic and sensitivity to the Holy Spirit, Pastor Maiysha ministers with wisdom, transparency, and power. Her desire is to see individuals encounter God in a personal way, experience true healing, and live a life fully surrendered to His will. Pastor Maiysha's life and ministry reflect her unwavering love for the Lord and her commitment to advancing the kingdom of God one life at a time. Excuse me. So, as y'all have heard, the beautiful bio from Pastor Maiysha, I just want to say that she is one that is graced for the assignment. She is one that is graced to do what God has called her to do. I have the beautiful honor and opportunity to journey with her closely in partnership and ministry. And you know one thing where you hear something, but you really see something. And so I'm so honored, so grateful, thankful to have, just been in her life in the time that God has allowed me to be in her life, to see just her love, her compassion for God's people, to see her authenticity through what she does and her desire to really see and to even hunger more and more for God. So, without further ado, y'all ready? Because we're about to get into this conversation. I am ready for y'all to meet the lovely, beautiful, strong, mighty Pastor Maiysha Brooks. Y'all light up the comments. Hey sis.
Hey sis, what's going on? Listen,
I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you.
Listen, so we're gonna have a conversation, y'all. We are gonna talk, and I'm just excited for y'all to just sit with us and to have this conversation as we just talk. This is Mommy Talk, so throughout this whole entire conference, we have been having an opportunity to talk about a lot of different things. And, one of the things that I love about Mommy Talk this far is the transparency.
Yes.
I love the fact that moms, y'all have not been holding nothing back. So, we going to let God do what He going to do? You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So, let's see what we got. This is beautiful because we live, y'all. So, we live today. So,
She put me on the spot, y'all. She put me on the spot.
We are live. And so I'm excited, y'all. If y'all can't tell, I'm excited. So, all right. So, you are a mom of kids. Okay. So, you have multiple kids. So, you have had an opportunity to see different points of life.
Yes.
And, being a mom and seeing different points of life, things change. And that today we're talking about change embodies peace.
Yes.
And so we're going to give them, before we go into some of those questions, we're going to allow them to just hear a little bit as you feel led of your journey being a mom, having to raise kids and some of the things that you have been through. So my first question is, can you talk to a mom or those who may be listening on how it's been learning to release control as a mom but still being present?
So for me, that has been an interesting journey. So for me, I have 3 boys. They all range in the ages of 19, 20, and 26. I had my son when I was 18 years old. And of course I was a baby. Like, I didn't know anything about being a mom. I didn't know what it looked like and what it meant. I feel like I didn't know what I was doing. So for me, I went into motherhood as a child myself. My mind, childlike, my spirit, childlike, and I didn't know God then. I had gone through the motions of being brought up in church, but I didn't have a relationship. So initially, when I say that my child grew up with me, he grew up with me. He grew up alongside me as we were growing together. Of course, I had the opportunity, when my son was about 10 years old, I met my husband, and he had 2 children. So we became this beautifully blended family. And I truly believe that even in that, there's restoration. So, what was the question again?
Talk to a mom who may be listening on what it's been like learning to release control as a mom and still be present.
Okay, so anybody who knows me knows that I go hard for my kids. I love being present. That's very important to me. The jobs that I've taken in the years, the people that I've dated, the clothes that I wore, it was all for the sake of my child's benefit, because for me, there was never anything that was more important to me than my child. So over the years, again, my son that I birthed, he'll be 20 actually in 2 weeks. He'll be 20 years old. And for me, what control looked like was making sure everything was perfect. I figured if I could be the best mom, if I said the right things, went the right places. Now, mind you, there's no God in it. When he was born, I did pray at that time. It was like a slow progression. I said, Lord, whatever it is, you give me this child, you give me this blessing. I promise you, I'll do right by you and how I raise him. But for me, that didn't look like raising him godly. That just was raising him for, at the time, what I thought was right. So what I thought was right was just being there, being present. What I thought right was making sure he was at the best schools, he had all the opportunities. But later, as I grew in Christ, as I became to be the woman that God had called me to be, that's when I learned the hard part of parenting. Everybody talks about how when they're newborns is hard, waking up in the middle of the night every couple of hours, when they're walking, when they're trying to potty train. For me, coming from a place of having a child at a young age, the hardest part for me is letting go. The hardest part for me is releasing them back to God, giving them back to God and say, God, you can do what I can't. When my boys, my younger 2, when they went off to college, it was new for me, because so much of my life and so much of my identity was incorporated with them. Like I said, every job that I took, every person that I dated, everywhere that I went, there were opportunities that God placed in front of me that I did not take for the sake of my children. There were times when God wanted me to move and I wouldn't move because, I can't do this because this is going to affect him X, Y, and Z. There was no trust there, if I'm being honest. There was no trust in the Lord there, because I'm doing everything that I thought that I was supposed to do as a mom to protect him, to guide him. As I began to grow in Christ, God continuously showed me, you have to trust me. I can't remember who said it yesterday, but they said that they belong to God anyway. Our children belong back to the Lord anyway. But in my mind, in me being naive, I know better than God. I know he shouldn't go to that school. I know he shouldn't date that girl. I got nothing but boys. I know that, God, this is better for them. Now, in my conscious mind, did I do that with intentionality? No, I wasn't intending on disobeying God. But in my heart, I just was doing my best as a mom to protect, to guide, to make sure that I wasn't selfish in how I was raising him in my own mind. And what I mean by that is I never put myself first. Never put myself first. I never wanted to. I never had a desire to put myself first. And what I mean by that is in the midst of all of that, I really, truly, like the Pharisees, I'm believing that I'm obeying God. I'm believing that I'm doing what God wants me to do and doing right by my child. That's what I thought. As they're getting older, because my identity, because of so much of who I've always been, has only been a mom and a mom only, not a daughter of the Most High God, not anointed, none of those things. My whole identity was, I'm their mom, and that's it. That's the most important thing in my life, is to be their mom. I told my husband the other day, him and I were talking, and I said, if I haven't done anything else in my life, I know that I've given my all to my children. As I grow in God, he has shown me, but you haven't given your all to me. You haven't given your all in your parenting to me because you never gave your kids back to me. When are you going to start praying and releasing them back to me? I've only given to them to you for a certain period of time,
Yeah.
when are you going to give them back to me?
Yeah.
When are you going to allow me to do what you can't?
Yeah.
And once I came to that realization,
Mhm.
it's been a battle and a tussle ever since, if I'm being honest, because it's
Yeah.
so unfamiliar.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really unfamiliar to me to take my hands off,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
And now that they're older, they're exposed to so much more.
Yeah.
They're not in my home, so I don't have full 100% influence over them the way that I used to.
Right.
And if I'm being honest, infancy stage was kind of easy compared to this stage,
Yeah.
because it's a different level of faith.
Yeah.
It's a different prayer walk. It's a different level of your prayer life increasing, because you have to trust in the Lord.
Yeah.
When they go out, when they're grown, it's different. You don't see them every day. You don't know who they're around to influence them. They don't come back home after school. They don't come back home after work. They're more in the world now.
Yeah.
Our generation, in terms of social media, exposure, the things that I tried to keep him from, he's exposed to.
Yeah.
He's exposed to things that I would have never allowed him to view, never allowed him to be a part of.
Yeah.
But now he's exposed to it.
Yeah.
So my response in that is, God, I give him back to you. You've given him to me for all of these years, and I've enjoyed it. It's been my life's blessing to be a mother. It's one thing that I love doing. If I can't do nothing else, I love the babies, and I love being a mom.
Yeah.
But God had to shift me and show me, you're more than just a mom. Give them back to me, and watch what I'm going to do in their life. Watch what I'm going to do in your life. And if I'm being honest, I will tell anyone, you have to fully trust God in raising your kids.
Yeah.
Fully trust God. There have been times where I thought that me raising them was the typical surface level things, taking them to church, going to church. Like you said, I've been through different areas in terms of mothering, from infancy, toddler, the blended family aspect, which that's a whole totally different beast in itself.
Yeah.
But along the years, and who I married, and who God entrusted in my life, and who the community that I surround myself with, by the grace of God, I've been able to raise my boys. I've been able to be a stepmother to my stepsons. But it's not easy. Yeah. Even now, because they're so older and they're men, I'm raising men. It's a huge responsibility to allow God to grow them up to be men. Some of my boys, I have three, in terms of a present father, it has not always been the case for all three of them. My husband, he came into my son's life, when he was a little older. Our other son, he came into his life when he was a little younger. But to build up men of God, you have to allow God to do that. Yeah. And you cannot do that unless you release them back to God. You can't. Because it's so important, like the mandate and the responsibility of men to be men in their homes, men in the earth. Yeah. You got to let God do that. Because there's some things that I can't do as a mother. There's some things that I can't say or speak over their life the way that God can. Yeah. I only can be led by what God has given me, but there's some things that God's going to directly deal with them on, because he is their father in the absence of their father.
Yeah. Wow. That's so good. And I wanna touch on the part where you talked about the infant stage and the newborn stage. And when you were saying that, it was like, what I was seeing was, during that time, it's like the babies are there. You're able to hold them and nurture them. But like you said, when they become older, they're exposed to so much. Yeah. And it took me to faith. Faith is the things that we hope for, the things that we don't see. Yeah. And so it was just like I was seeing this vision of just literally like a newborn. You're seeing a newborn, but as they grow, you still, of course, you see your kids, but the dynamic, and you said something, you said, now it requires me to have a new level of faith. And you don't really think about that even in the absence of their growth. Like, they're now maturing, they're now, like you said, exposed to different things. But I just really wanted to point that out because, at some point our kids are going to grow older, and, we may not have or be in that place right now. But at the end of the day, like, as they grow, we have to trust, and like you said, it's a trust thing. You have to trust God with your kids, and remember that these kids belong to him. And, I think the beautiful part of what you have said is the fact that, you had the timings in which they came in, the boys were in different different ages. I'm sorry. And at the end of the day, like you said, God has to be the one. God has to be the one to raise them up. God has to be the one. But at the end of the day, you said you do things differently now.
Yes.
And so I think, like, as moms and those that are listening, like, we have to remember that no matter where we are in our parenting journey, whether you have grown kids or kids that even may have walked away and don't come and visit you and different things like that, like, you have to trust God with where He has you, and trust and release those kids to God. So that's good. And like she said, she had to release control, and there was a point where she had to go to God and she had to give it all.
Yes.
You had to give Him all of what you had. So that's good, sis. All right. So for a mom on here, a leader or wife that doesn't give herself grace, what does it look like for you realizing moments that you need to give yourself grace? So, there's times and there's moments where we don't give ourselves grace.
Mm-hmm.
There's times where we beat ourselves up. So, like, what does that look like for you, or times in the past where you have realized that, you were not giving yourself the grace that you should have? And what would you say to a mom that may be beating herself up and, not giving herself grace as a parent? And whether it be a parent in this dynamic of, like, how your life is with grown kids or just in general?
I will say this. There is no one size fits all. Mm-hmm. Each and every child is different. Mm-hmm. Each and every mother is going to be different. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we get into a place where we're comparing ourselves. Mm-hmm. We have this vision of the moms that we want to be, mm-hmm. right? I know for myself, I always envision myself, if I make sure that I provide, if I make sure that I show love, if I make sure that I nurture, if I make sure that I'm, doing my best to bring them to church, then I'm doing okay, right? But in the back of my mind, it's always, I'm not doing enough. What can I do better? Because the weight of it is, we're responsible for this person. Yeah. We're responsible for their upbringing. We're responsible for their outcome. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times how we are raised determines some things in our future. Yeah. I always said that I never want to be in a position where my children have to heal from something that I did or did not do. Because you got to think about it. We all are put in a place where something that's been embedded in us through our genetics, something that has been spoken over our life, whether it be from a mother or father, that's going to determine something down the line. Yeah. So when I raise my children, my hope and prayer is always that, Lord, help me to raise them beyond right now. But a lot of times we'll examine that and say, well, I should have said this, or I should have done this. Yeah. You only can give what you have in that moment. Oftentimes we always talk about pouring from an empty cup. You only can give what you have. Yeah. Like, and what I mean by that is, when I had my son, I was 18 years old. Yeah. I couldn't give him the almost 40-year-old version of myself that I give him now, because I wasn't that person then. Yeah. So at some point you have to allow God to transform your way of thinking to where it's, God, you know what? I'm doing the best that I can right now. Yeah. If you recognize that God is pushing you further, you recognize that you can do more, then you do more. But at the same time, I really truly feel like women in general don't allow ourselves time to grow. You can't have an expectation to have all the answers when you're a first-time mom. Yeah. I have one child that I birthed. I have two children that I did not birth, but I'm raising. I'm helping to raise. Nobody told me how to be a stepmom. Nobody told me what it was going to look like. But I truly believe that in time, because for a while I was like, I don't know how to do this thing. I don't know, even when your children start evolving, because they're going to change. They're going to go through puberty. They're going to have attitudes, those different things. Everything is not a reflection of what you did not do. Because the reality of it is, no matter what you do, no matter how much you do, there's some things that only God can do in their life. So as much as there's some parents that are out there, women that are out there that are praying for their kids are doing the exact opposite. There are the parents that are instilling certain values, the kids are going against it. Sometimes it has nothing to do with what you're not doing. Sometimes it's a testament of who God is going to be, or who God is in their life. And that grace has to be offered. I can't say, well, I did everything that I could and I failed. According to whose standards did you fail? According to whose timeline did you fail? And I don't think we offer grace in that area, because whether your child turns out to be the best of the best or the worst of the worst, God has still assigned you to that child. regardless of anything else, regardless of their next move, regardless of their next steps. We have to understand that if God is giving us grace in our parenting, if he's giving grace in our motherhood, why is it that we can't give grace to ourselves? Why can't we recognize, God, I need you in this? Oftentimes, we try to have it all figured out. We try to look at ourselves as being the sole person in the responsibility of our children. You know how it says it takes a village? Sometimes people don't have a tangible village of other people. Sometimes your only village is going to be the Lord. That's where your grace is offered. Your grace is offered, and Lord, I'm doing the best that I can. Please help me to raise this child. Lord, I don't feel like, hey, I don't know about anybody else, but there's sometimes I don't feel like being a mama. I don't want nobody looking for me. I don't want nobody asking for me. I don't want to cook. I don't want to clean. I don't want to wipe no notes. I don't want to do any of those things. There's grace in that because we're human. We're not these robotic super women that just operate on fumes and expect to perform. It's not a performance. It's a lifelong thing. I always say that when you have children, you're going to be a mom for the rest of your life. If your child gets called home, you're still a mother. If your child is 23, I tell my kids all the time, y'all are still my babies. I don't care how old y'all are, y'all are still I'm still your mother. And what that means and what that looks like is you have to offer yourself grace beyond your tasks and your duties of being a mother. You have to offer grace in the times when you get tired. Because at the end of the day, the children don't know what you have going on. They don't know the struggles. They don't know the mental health issues. They don't know the health problems. You have to understand that to walk out parenthood, to walk out motherhood, to any degree, you have to offer yourself grace. And your grace has to come from the Lord. It doesn't come from anybody else.
Wow. That's so good. When you think about grace, and like you said something about that same grace that God extends to us, we have to extend to ourselves. And I think that's so powerful because when you think about the grace that God gives us, it's so beautiful. And it just makes me think also when we're not extending that grace, what has caused us to not extend that grace upon ourselves? And you know, it always comes from somewhere. You know, it always comes from a root issue. And so that's even something to think about and to pray about too. You know, when and not that, you know, because there are going to be moments where we do it, but when we see a pattern, you know, when we see that we're constantly like not extending that grace, at that point it's like, okay, something is going on. So, you know, we have to see, okay, why are we not able to extend that grace to ourselves? You know, so that's so good. And even a part about, you know, just what you said about what they do is not determined by how you raise them. So like everything because that's just like with us, like we can make a mistake or we could do something, and Jesus didn't tell us to do that. That ain't a reflection of him, you know. So, you know, it's not a reflection of him. And it's not because God said do this and we just, you know, it doesn't work like that. So I'm so glad that you said that, because yes, there are things that we are accountable for, like you said, and things that we're called to do. But at the end of the day, it's not every decision that we make or that they make as children is not backed upon what we did and we did not do. And I think that's even a good point of grace, because when you really think about it, it's like we in our human form, we're not perfect. You know, we're not going to have all the answers. We're not going to have everything correct. But at the end of the day, like, we have to remember, just like you said, that there's a God that's the only one that's able to give us that grace, and going back to him and saying, okay, God, like, how do you want me to do this? How do you want me to parent these kids? How do you want me to receive the grace that you extend towards me? So that's good. I pray that y'all heard that, because that really spoke when she said about the points and the pieces that, you know, it's not always, again, sometimes it is some of the things that we did and did not do, but that's not always the case. And we have to come to the realization of, you know, everybody is going to make their own decisions. Everybody is going to make choices. Everybody has a free will. And what they choose to do in that, just like what we choose to do in that, is nothing that we can do about that pertaining to what it pertains to others. So that's good.
I just feel like, and I know for me, because my children are older, some decisions that they make, I'm like, where do you get that from? I did not teach you that. I did not show you that. But then I have to remember that God has this own plan individually for them. I can give them as much foundational things that I can, but even in the way my parents raised me, look who I am now. You know, it's not all in vain. I truly believe that everything works according to God's will, God's plan. I may have a plan for their life, and that's goes back to kind of like you saying, control. I had a vision and a plan for who I want my boys to be, right? I want them to be strong, mighty men of God. I don't want them to do nothing outside of that. But then where do they build their faith at? Where do they build their own relationship with God? Where do they build their own endurance? They're not going to do it because I'm putting my hand on what God is doing. He's writing their story. God has given them to me. He let me borrow them for a little while, but He's writing their story, not me. My job is to make sure that I'm, even now, like I can honestly say, you know, you and I have had conversations before, I didn't fully raise my son in Christ the way that I would now have, you know, have I have a child. But at the same time, I can see the hand of God on his life as he's growing older. But it's not according to anything that I did technically, because technically I didn't know how to do it. I wasn't in a position or a place to know how to raise him up in the things of God the way that I know now. I was not positioned where I needed to be, but God is doing the writing. He's doing the writing. He's doing the editing. So there's some things that is going to surpass me that I didn't show him. Why? Because God is doing it, not me. I think sometimes that we unintentionally try to be God in their life. And I'll say that for myself. Unintentionally, I want you to come to me if you have help. If you need help. I want you to come to me if you have problems. I want you to come to me if you what's the word? Need to be saved, right? Mama saved me out of this. Baby, I'm coming. I'm coming with my skates on and everything. I'm coming. But where does that leave room for God to write their story? Where does it leave room for God to be God in your life? You know? And to me, I know for me, that has been an area that I have to give myself grace in. I remember there was a time my son called me in the middle of the night. He had something going on, and he says, Mom, please help me. And what he was in, now mind you, he's grown, he's gone, he's off to college. I could not help him. My job in that moment wasn't to be God, but to revert him back to the Lord. I need you to pray about it. This is the time right here. This is an example where you go and you pray about it. I can't be there. Mama can't be there. And of course, when I got off that phone, I was like, you know, but I have to offer myself grace in that. There's so many areas of grace that can be offered as a mother because we wear so many hats. We're the nurse. We're the psychologist. We're the doctor. You know, we're all of these things to our children, so much so to where we don't give ourselves grace to grow. We don't give ourselves grace to have our own identity. We don't give ourselves grace to make mistakes. We don't give ourselves grace to pour. Like, we don't give ourselves grace in so many different areas. Like, oftentimes I see so many moms beat themselves up and down for thinking that they have to be perfect because they want their child to turn out well. Everything that we do, every decision that we make is predicated on how is this going to affect my child. And at the end of the day, you're raising your child. I'm not raising your babies, and vice versa. Why not offer grace for what God has given you? We have to give ourselves grace for everything that God has appointed in our life. If not, then where's the trust in the Lord?
Writing your story, that really stood with me when you talked about God is the one that's writing your story. He is the one that is editing, and that was a word. Because when you really think about it, and you think about God already knows, and what's coming to me right now is the prodigal son. Like, he already knows that they're coming back home. But they had to go down that course. They had to deal with some things. But at the end of the day, he's building their testimony. And, you know, that's wow. That's so good, because at the end of the day, God knows the very end. Like, God knows the places. He already knows what they're about to do with these kids, you know, all of the things. But at the end of the day, like, we have to know, just like you said, that he is the one that writes the story. He is the one that is editing. So we could try to erase this, or we can try to do this, but at the end of the day, he's the only one that has the ultimate. He the one that's writing. Wow.
And if he wanted us to operate in perfection, then he wouldn't be here. Come on. You know, we talk a lot about how we rely on the Lord. We're trusting in the Lord. We have faith. We only have that narrative, so to speak, because we have to fall in some things. We have to make some mistakes in some things.
Yeah.
We have to get it wrong sometimes so that we can know that we're not relying on anything of our own. Our own strength, our own understanding, our own wisdom. If I did everything perfectly, why would I need to go to God? If I was a perfect mother and I didn't make any mistakes and nothing needed to be done, then there would be no God. I need God to grace me in this, because this right here, this baby, this is not no race.
Yeah,
it's not a race.
Yeah.
I think I said it the other day. It's not a race. Yeah. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Yeah,
that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good. Wow. All right. So, you were once a single mom, and you know, I know that we have some single moms on here, and you know, I once at one point was a single mom also. So, just having to go through those moments of being a single mom, it comes with a lot of things that I feel like a lot of single moms bury. You know, they bury a lot of things. And we talked about even one of the things that got from Mommy Talk was no guilt, no shame. And so, you know, being a single mom and having to navigate, and you can speak honestly from both parts because you were once a single mom and married, but having to deal with or having to navigate being a single mom and then being married, there's some things that changed, there's some things that you had to endure. And so I just want to touch on something really quick.
Okay.
All right. So you were once a single mom. So how did you get through seasons of depression, setbacks financially, and insecurities, and what shifted you out of that?
Wow. Being a single mom was really hard, of course. I've always had my family support. My parents, my immediate family, friends have always been a support to me. They've always been a support to my son. But I can recall vividly times in my single parenthood where we didn't have any food. If I'm being honest, during that singleness, there was a period of time where I did go through a deep depression. I went through a depression in terms of me and my child's father, we were no longer together. And of course, like I said, when you write your own vision of your life, it wasn't turning out the way that I thought it would be. Of course, my intentions were never to be a single mother. I thought that this was the man I was going to marry. This is the man I was going to raise my child with and spend the rest of my life with. So because at the time, I weighed so heavily on my identity being that, I was devastated when it shifted. So just to give a little context of what that looked like, had my son at 18. His dad and I moved in together probably when he was about 6 months old. We broke up. I had to move back home with my parents. There's my independence. There's my, putting on my big girl panties, and that was all gone. So there was a dark period of time, and if I'm being honest, how I coped with it or what I relied on was alcohol. I started drinking. And at the time it was functional to where it wasn't like you wouldn't see me walking around inebriated. But as soon as I got home, I did my mom duties, got my son to bed, the bottle saw me. That was the only way I could sleep. That was the only way that I could function to where the pain was gone. So at that time it went on for a couple of years. I went through my party girl stage. I went out and I hung out and some of those things, am I glad I experienced them? Yes, because I have a testimony behind that. But if I'm being honest, it made it harder because I didn't get myself settled in life. I was alone. It was just me and my son, and I did not know what that looked like. I didn't understand, God, why do you have me here? Like I truly believe I'm a pretty good mom. I don't think I'm bad in that area. How do you have me here? At the time, I was coping with everything that was not of God. I was looking for love. I was sleeping around to a certain extent to where I was just looking for love. I was looking for that replacement of, he didn't love me, but somebody else will. And I had enough sense and I had enough care for my son to hide it from him, so he was never exposed to it. Again, because my life, part of my life was hidden from him. He was never going to see me drunk. He was never going to see me with other men, but I was doing damage to myself over time. Over time, it started spiraling to where I was on medications, anxiety medication, depression medication. And even then, I was, if I'm being honest, I was truly going through the motions. I was attending church. I was still, going to church every Sunday, bringing my son to church every Sunday, because I knew that there was a part of me that still desired God. I knew I needed God, but not to the extent to where I just laid down my life the way I knew I should have. But it was hard. It was really, really hard. There were times where, I was young, so I was figuring out how to pay bills. I was figuring out how to manage money. And sometimes as much as my parents, again, my mom, tried to prepare me for adult life, it's different when it comes. Now, mind you, I had him straight out of high school. So I graduated. Less than 6 months later, I was pregnant. So I didn't have time to grow up. It was almost immediate. There were times where I didn't know how to stretch a dollar. So to this day, my son does not like spaghetti. Okay? He said, "Mommy, I get tired of spaghetti. I ate spaghetti my whole life." But anybody knows that meal was stretched for the whole week. Come on. We was eating spaghetti. We were eating spaghetti with no meat, just the noodles, And of course, people don't know that side of me. There was a side that I kept hidden. I didn't want anybody to see that I was struggling. And if I'm being 100% honest, at that time, because I was young, because I was naive, I was in a very dark place. So I continuously kept getting pregnant. And I kept getting pregnant. I went through, my son, he was 1 year old, and I had a miscarriage. Miscarriage when he was 1 year old. I ended up getting pregnant 2 more times after that, had abortions. And so at that time, all this darkness was overshadowing my life. I never wanted to bleed onto my son. I never wanted him to see that. But there were the darkest times of my life were those periods when I was a single mom. And if I'm being honest, I was a single mom for most of his life. It was just me and him, So in terms of going through those times when you're single and you're alone, those aren't things that we talk about. A lot of these things that I'm talking about, some of my family knows, some of my family does not know. There are things that my parents didn't know until years later. And they're looking like, "You went through that?" Yeah, I did. Through it though. I went through it. And at some point in time, when I shared with you today, when I was looking for love, I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be in a relationship. God snatched me out of something. He snatched me out of being in a situation that he did not want me in, that did not define me, And a lot of times, being a single mom, you're faced with the harsh reality of, I'm alone. I'm doing this alone. I'm doing this with no help. I'm doing this not with the person who I helped create a child with. And it's hard. It's a harsh reality because that's not what we intend for ourselves. It's not what we intend for our children. I never intended to bring my child into this world into a broken home, in a broken situation. I felt like a failure. I felt like I failed him. There have been times even years later that I felt like, God, did I fail him? His life could be X, Y, and Z if he was in a 2-parent household. I never wanted him to become a statistic. So what I did was I overworked myself as hard as I could, as much as I could, to make sure that I gave him the life that I felt was worthy. And I was killing myself doing it. Now, do I have any regrets? Absolutely not. Because there's a testimony even in his life. But if I'm being honest, no one knew what I was experiencing. I kept a smile. I kept a job. I know that there are some single mothers out there that have had it way harder than I have. And it's a lonely place. It's a lonely place. The community was not there. I have other people around me. They have boyfriends. They don't have kids. All of those things. And even if you don't have your children when you're young, I want people and women to also know that you can very well be a single mother and be married as well. It's hard. The task of mothering is very hard when you don't have help. When you go from nurturing your children, doing all the daily tasks, all the things, all the pouring, all the praying, all the snot nose and tucking into bed. Sometimes there are women out there who are married who are doing everything alone. It's a lonely place. And that can play on your mental health. I'm really big and I advocate a lot on mental health because mental health is taking women out. Mental health and the I'm gonna say the not the burden but the heaviness of being a mother, it weighs on us.
Yeah.
Everybody expects us to be strong.
Yeah.
Everybody expects us to show up.
Yeah.
Everybody expects us to have all the answers and
Yeah.
to do all of the things.
Yeah.
But if I'm being honest, there's some times that we're depleted
Yeah.
and we're tired.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times when I was a single mom that I wanted to leave.
Yeah.
The only thing that kept me here during that time was my son.
Yeah.
The only thing.
Yeah.
There were so many times where I was like, Lord, please, please, I know my parents take him.
Yeah.
My parents, can give him such a better life than I can.
Yeah.
He was the only thing that kept me here.
Yeah.
The only thing that kept me here.
Yeah.
And my encouragement to mothers that are in that single place, what I didn't have then is a relationship with God.
Yeah.
I knew God, I
Yeah.
kind of knew God. I knew church,
Yeah.
but I didn't know God. I didn't know relationship. I didn't understand the sacrifices that Jesus made in order for us to be here. I just didn't understand. I was just really naive to it for a long time.
Yeah.
And if I can tell any single mother, build your relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
Because on those days that you feel like giving up, those days that you don't know if you're going to throw in the towel, those days that you don't know when you're going to eat, how you're going to eat, there would be times that I would go over to my mom and daddy house just to visit. Like, hey, we come by to visit.
Yeah.
But I know that they cooked.
Yeah.
That would be how I would get my meal.
Yeah.
That would be how my son would get his meal. They had no idea.
Yeah.
They were just, oh, y'all come on in, y'all get a plate.
Yeah.
They don't know they were feeding us for days.
Mm.
They were feeding us because I didn't have the money.
Yeah.
I tell this story all the time. My son's first Christmas, right? In my mind, I just wanted have a normal life, like normal kids, right? I remember I bought him everything that I could afford to buy him, and it was this little motorcycle toy. And he did a 1-2 across the carpet, and it broke.
Mm.
And I was like, Lord, I can't even afford to get my child a. It was for the dollar store, but I was like, I can't even afford to get him a nice Christmas present, and that fueled my Lord, never again. Never again will I put him through this. And that was my motivation. It wasn't God that was motivating me, but it was my blessing in realizing enough. I didn't know much, but I realized enough that this child is a blessing that did not ask to be here. God, I'm alone, I'm scared, but I'm going to do it anyway. So if nothing else, again, if you have the Lord, you have everything. And even in spite of me not having the Lord, He stayed with me. He protected me. He covered me and my son in every aspect of our lives. To me, for me to be able to testify and say, I have a son that's going to be 20 years old in 2 weeks. And it's not a moment to brag per se, but just to show how God will keep you in the midst of your singleness. He will keep you. I'm a true woman to say that He will keep you, because I didn't have anything else to keep me. I didn't have anything else to keep me. Singleness is a very lonely place, especially when you, even without children, desire companionship. You desire marriage. You desire a relationship. You desire to raise your children together. And at the end of the day, here you are alone, trying to figure it out, trying to journey through it. And it's a very unfamiliar road, whether you have one child or 20 children. It's very unfamiliar because each journey is going to be different. Each child's going to be different. If you think about children who very well may have special needs, rely on the Lord. That's the best advice that I can give.
So good. And I'm so grateful for your transparency. And the point that I want to pull out, even with what you said, is let me ask you this: when did you? I know you mentioned about being snatched, and going through the silence of enduring those things. When did you realize that it was time for you, or what was it that? I know it was God, but was there any leading indications that you were coming out of something different, or was there some leading indications that something has to change? What was that initial I would say push out of that stuck place in those seasons?
I realized that the life that I was living, that I couldn't continue to use my being naive as an excuse. I dated on and off, right? I dated because, again, I was looking for that love. I can honestly say I've never been one that enjoys being single. Like, I like being in relationships. You know, I like being in relationships. You know, some people love being single. No, I don't want to be single. You know,
Right.
And I was dealing with the man. I was dating the man, and in my naive state, oh, he's the one. Yeah. Oh no, he wasn't the one, but he's going to be the one. Like, he's going to be the one. And I had finally gotten to a point. I know this is not about moms, but I had finally got to a point where, you know, sometimes we have expectations of what we want a man to be in our life. I found him. Yeah. He was everything on paper. Okay, everything on paper. I said, okay, this is it. And I entered in that relationship, and I was naive. Again, I was searching for the right father figure. I was searching for the right love, the right companion, and oh my gosh, I found it. So I thought. And I entered in this situation, eyes wide open, naive. And at that point in my life, I was really starting to venture into relationship with God. I had started going to this new church. I found a new church because my son and I, we had been going to my home church. And something just told me, like, you know, try this church out. And I started going there. And for the first time in my life, I was understanding what it meant to have a relationship. What it meant to have a true prayer life. I knew all of the church lingo. I knew that you're supposed to hold up your finger before you walk. You know, I knew all of those things, but it wasn't until that period of time in my life that I'm like, okay, this is what it looks like to start living a godly life. And it wasn't immediate. It was over time period. And what ended up happening was this particular man that I thought was truly the one. Like, oh yeah, all the other guys before him, they weren't. This guy I thought would be the one that he was in game. Okay. Now, mind you, I'm still in my early 20s. He was in game though. He was in game. And he attended church, but he had no relationship with God. And what I found myself in was being in a relationship, a commitment on my end. You know, I'm committed in a sense to this person, and he was married. And it took a harsh realization that is not love. He is not your husband. Now, going into the situation, I didn't know that. I did not know that at first. But even when I did find out, it was like, God, what? Like, how is this happening? And it was one of those things where God had to literally snatch me and tell me, you are my daughter. You love me. You've been going through years and years in your singleness trying to find love, but you haven't tried me. You haven't found me. For the first time in your life, you're understanding what it is to be in a relationship with me. Be in a relationship with me. Love me. Date me. Spend time with me. Cuddle with me at night. And when I realized that was enough, that's when I started to change.
Wow. When she realized that God was enough, that's when it started to change. That is so powerful, because it comes to a point where you have to realize, where we have to see that all of the things that we go through as a mom, all of the challenges, all of the stupidity, all of the foolishness, because we all got foolishness in the past, wickedness, all of the things. But once you realize that none of those things compares to what you will get from the Lord, and the scripture tells us, like, you will never be able to explain the love of God. You will never be able to explain it. But there's such a compelling love that He gives us, and you can't put it into words. But all you can say is try Jesus. Try Jesus. All you can say is, even if you are in this place right now where you're a single mom, she mentioned about, wanting to be cuddled and different things like that. Those are things that you crave and desire when you don't know better. Same. I would crave and desire that, didn't know better, So it's like, in those moments of understanding that it's only temporary. It's only for a moment, but once you get a taste of Jesus, like, all of those things, it's still a process. You still have to go through your healing and your deliverance, but at the end of the day, like, God is going to be the one that is going to strip you of the desires of those things that are not good for you, and help you to pursue Him. Absolutely. So that's so good. Thank you, sis, again, for your transparency, because I know without a shadow of a doubt, like, again, like, I'm just so in awe of how God has been, I say, just breaking because these are conversations that a lot of people are buried. Like this buried just keeps coming to me. Like it's just buried, and it's when we confront and when we step out and confess the things that we've been through, it really frees not just us, but it frees others. So
Absolutely.
I'm grateful. All right, so we're gonna go. We got about a few more questions.
Okay.
So, all right. So let me ask you this. So, a lot of people don't know this, but you had a season of, I would say, grief that is different than many others. And so, what was this like going for? What was this season like for you going through grief? And you have different moments of grief, but for you particularly, you have had to endure a season of grief that I would say in our way of looking at living, you don't really see this. It's not something that you wake up and think is going to happen. So in this season of your life, what would you say to a mom who may be grieving today from a place of now having to parent your child after they have lost their parent?
So my son's father, he died unexpectedly. He wasn't sick. It was a accident in his home. And it's been about 4.5 years now. And if I'm being honest, it was such an unfamiliar place. Such an unfamiliar place. Because I'm gonna be very transparent. You have to think about, this is someone that you've had a child with. So there's intimacy there. There's relationship there. At one point in time, I loved this person. But at the time when he passed, I'm married. So my level of grief was on so many different aspects and avenues, because my son and his dad did not have the best relationship. He was not present in his life. So there has always been a certain level of grief even before he passed away, because I'm grieving for my child. I'm grieving for the father that he never really knew, the relationship that he never really had. So fast forward to when he passes away, my son was 15 at the time. Both of my parents are living. So there was some grief that I didn't understand, that I had to walk him through. I had to walk him through his past hurt and grievances. And now I'm dealing with the grief of what will never be. So a lot of that came from the heartache of, he's grieving the father that he always wanted and he'll never have. He's grieving a restoration in a relationship that was never there. It got to the point where things went downhill really fast. And what I mean by that was, my son tends to be a very private individual. He holds a lot in. So during this time, this process, I want to help. I want to talk to him. I want to, are you doing okay? What's wrong? This is a very unfamiliar navigation for me. Very unexpected. We had, because it's always, primarily been me and my son, we had been through so much. I had helped him through the seasons of, Mom, does my dad love me? Now it's these unanswered questions that I don't have the answers for. I don't know why he was alone. You know what? I do know this. I know that he loved you. So I had to, in a lot of ways, I had to channel all of the Holy Spirit in order to help me continue to raise him. Because now there's a void there. There was always a void there, but now that void will never be restored or refilled by amending his relationship with his father. So my grief process, my son, he kind of went through a period of all the stages of grief: anger, denial, rejection, and he started failing. And what I mean by that is, like, even in school, like his grades, his attitude, he started becoming extremely rebellious to the point where I was worried, like, Lord, I don't know what to do. Like, I it wasn't in the card. It wasn't in the cards at all. I thought we was going to grow old and share grandkids together one day. And so it was a lot of prayer. I sought therapy for him, but there was still a part of me that was silently grieving. I was grieving for a past love but I was also grieving for a life that had potential, a life that affected a lot of people. I was angry because although he hadn't been present as present up to that point, I always thought that there would be a story of redemption. I always thought that there would be a story of, you know what, you didn't do well in this area, but you have time. You have time to redeem yourself. And even as I was going through the process of trying to be strong for my son, I was trying to be strong for him. You know, you can't tell somebody it's going to be okay. This person has just lost their parent, a parent that they have always yearned for is now gone. For me, it was an awkward, very awkward position because, again, this is somebody that I have passed with, I have intimacy with. And in that moment, as much as at the time when him and I, you know, our relationship was a little coarse, you know, when he was living. But even in that, I had to learn that there was still love for him. Not romantically, but a genuine love for another life, another person, while still honoring my marriage, honoring my vows. And I was conflicted because I wasn't sure, am I supposed to cry or am I not supposed to cry? Am I supposed to, you know? And in that, I remember reaching out to, or another mom on one of my son's teams, she reached out to me and she told me, I understand. I understand what it means to grieve for your child. Because at that point, I just wanted my child to be okay. I needed to know that this is not the end for you. So that grief process, if I'm being honest, is one of the hardest things I've ever had to experience in parenthood. Even now, as I stated before, it's hard raising an adult child, but for your child to lose a parent unexpectedly at any age, you step into a different kind of support, a different kind of help, a different kind of heartache for your child. It's unexpected. And if I'm being honest, my heart was broken because this was the one thing, you know, as you know, we got mama bears. You know, I'm a mama bear, you know, come from my baby now. This is, you know, but this is the one thing that I could not protect him from. For the first time, it was the realization that, Lord, I can't protect him. I can't protect him from his hurt. I can't answer the questions that he asks. I can't soothe his anger. God had to do that. And again, it's been 4 years. And although there's still the time he misses his dad, my job now is to get him to understand that even in that process, you're still going to grieve. I still grieve. There are times that I want to call him and say, do you know what your son did today? Do you know what he told me today? And he's so much like him. So there's still grief that's often. Because to see the light in our son, to see the potential in who he is and who he's becoming, I know that's not just me. It comes from his father as well. And it hurts that he's not here to see it. It hurts that he's not here to contribute to that for his future. So my goal now is to help my son truly build his legacy, break those generational curses, and honor his father as he walks it out.
You know, one of the things I want to pull out from that is the point of compassion. I just kept hearing compassion. And you were talking about, you know, still having to grieve in that because there was past relations, but also this is the father of your child, but also you are now married. And so I love the fact that, you know, you were still intentional with considering to honor your marriage. And not only that, also transparent enough to say, but yet I still grieve. I had moments where, you know, should I feel this way or should I cry and different things like that. But it just pulls out the place of compassion. Like you said, you know, you still love this person, but not in a romantic way, but you love him as, you know, at the end of the day, like we're all sister and brother, right. You know, so it's like that's something to really hone in on because no matter the point of grief or where we may be in seasons of grief, there should be a level of compassion that we have. And even when you think about what you're sharing with us, even if there's a mom on here that has dealt with that, thinking about that other person, because at the end of the day, like, you know, we're still having to process certain things, we're still having to go through certain things. So having that compassion and that grace for that other person, because yes, they are going through these things and they're having to deal with these things. It may not have happened to you per se, but at the same time, where's the compassion for others? Where's the compassion for those who are going through these things? And I thank you for sharing that, because when it comes to grief, it's a lot of different layers. But even, as you shared, just having to go through the stages, at the end of the day, you let us know that that was something that you knew that only God could do.
Yeah.
Only God could help you to know how to back off, or to know which way to go in that, because at the end of the day, you could not handle or do what was being presented to you in those stages of grief. And so I just even want to encourage a mom here, or anyone that's listening, like, when we think about grief, whether it be in this light or friendship or relational in any degree, like, just to have compassion, to be graceful. But at the end of the day, we have to allow God to be the one that carries us through the grief.
Absolutely.
And be sensitive to the Holy Spirit. Absolutely. In those moments of grief, because grief is sensitive. Not saying that anything else in life is not up here, but grief is different. So thank you for sharing that. All right, let's see where we're going. I think this gonna be the last one. I'm grateful again for this conversation, because I know without a shadow of a doubt it's freeing. And even, I always say this, it may not be us in the moment, but there is a point where it still may not be us per se, but there's a point where we're able to have wisdom on how to navigate through seasons where it may be someone near us. It may be someone that, a friend of ours that goes through something like this, and we necessarily aren't the one in it, but we're the one that's in proximity, and we'll have the steps or the leading of the Holy Spirit to help them to journey through some of the things that they may be going through. So I just believe that it may not be our situation in totality and detail, because we all have our own stories, but at the end of the day, there's something that we can grab from it, from a place of wisdom and knowing how to do things a little bit different, but also learning what certain things come with, because at the end of the day, like, something may happen and you never know what may come out of that. And so in these moments, it can be remembrance for someone. They can remember this conversation and be like, what, I remember when Pastor Maiysha was sharing this, and this is what she did, this is what helped her, this is what drew her this way, so all of those things are so vital to help us to draw near to God in those moments. So I'm thankful. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about moms, and I know that this is something that you are very big on, because you say it all the time. But moms that don't feel seen. There's times and there's moments where either can be busyness, or it can just be past things that have been going on, root issues, all of those different things. But there's a point in, I would say, motherhood where we all have not felt seen. So what would you say to a mom who doesn't feel seen, or who may want to give up and feels like they are behind? And so often, and yes, this comes from things that people speak over someone, and if they don't have the capacity to know how to tear it down, they will catch it and place it. So how or could you give us some practical things, or what it is that you would tell a mom that does not feel seen, but wants to give up, but also feels like they're behind? What would you say to them as a word of encouragement, but also what would you say to them to help them to get out of that practically?
Oh, that's a tough question. So I will say that, and there's some questions that you're going to have to ask yourself. There are going to be some moments in time where you're going to have to be transparent. You're going to have self-reflection, because oftentimes we don't feel seen and we don't feel heard. We're frustrated, we're overwhelmed, nobody seems to understand. My first question, or my first practicality that you could do, is ask yourself, do I love myself?
Mm.
Oftentimes we want to be seen and we want to be heard, but according to who?
Mm.
Who do you want to be seen by? Who is it that you want to hear you? Who is it that you want to understand that you have a voice? We have to understand that our value and our identity do not lie in people. And I truly believe that's where we get it wrong. So often we want to, and I'm speaking again from my own personal experience. There's been times where I've endured something and I just felt like nobody understands me, nobody hears me, nobody's listening. But according to who?
Yeah.
Who is it that you're wanting to hear your voice? There are so many women that are hurting. Oftentimes, I do a lot of counsel, and that looks like, having phone calls with people, talking to people, hearing their issues and their problems. And I'm grateful that God graced me with it, but so many women are silently hurting. And you have to ask yourself, where does it come from?
Yeah.
Before we even touch the surface of raising our kids, we have to do some self-reflection of who and where we identify ourselves. Our identity and who we are as women has to be so deeply rooted in the Father that we hear and see nothing else but Him. And the reason why I say that is because as soon as we get caught up in what everybody else wants us to be, even our children, everybody else wants it, because you got to think about it, we're nurturers naturally. Yeah. We naturally are to pour, we naturally are to care, we naturally are to oftentimes do the work for everyone else. Yeah. And we're always in the background. Yeah. It's very seldom that we're seen as, oh, I appreciate you so much. Oh, I thank you so much. We just do it. Yeah. But we never take the time to stop and say, well, Maiysha, what do you think about yourself? What do you see? And I'm not talking about the physical, I'm talking about the inner. That's good. What do you see? What do you see about yourself? Yeah. What do you hear about yourself? And then you align it with the Word of God. Yeah. You have to. You have to align it with the Word of God. Yeah. So many times, because there were times where I didn't have community. I didn't have anyone that I felt understood me. Yeah. I just suffered in silence. Yeah. And for me, what it means for a woman to be seen is to understand that they're never alone. Now, of course, if you had asked me that question years ago, it would have been practical in a different way, but it all reverts back to the Lord. Yeah. You have to start redirecting your attention and your focus to being seen through the lens of the Spirit, not by the lens of man. Yeah. So oftentimes we compare ourselves to what we see others doing, what we hear others are doing, and we get caught up in that and we stay there. We have to move out of the position to where what God has called Kiara to, He did not call Maiysha to. We're both mothers, but you're not a mother to my children, and I'm not a mother to your children. He calls us differently. Yeah. It looks different for every woman, but we have to know and understand that we don't walk alone. Yeah. It's never a journey to where we're alone. Even if we're alone physically, spiritually, we're always with the Lord. Yeah. So what it means to be seen, what it means to push yourself past the thought of, Lord, nobody hears me. Nobody sees my pain. Nobody sees my hurt. Nobody sees what I'm enduring, but God sees it. Yeah. Yeah. I can always encourage a woman at any point in time, even if you don't have a relationship with the Lord right now, start somewhere. Yeah. Start somewhere for the sake of your journey as a mother and for what your children are going to do beyond you and behind you. Yeah. I really believe that we self-reflect in the wrong way. And what I mean by that is we pick apart our negative. We pick apart what we aren't, but we never pour into what we are. Before we can pour into anybody else, we have to pour into ourselves. We have to have God's blueprint of, Lord, this is who you want me to be. Yeah. Lord, I know that I'm not walking alone. And we can declare those things over our lives. We're not doing that enough.
You said so much. I had to take some notes. I want to touch on the question that you posed. Who do you want to be seen by? Mm-hmm. That's such a great question, because when we realize the point of that, it determines the outcome of why and why we feel unseen. Because at the end of the day, like you said, like God sees. And so when we understand that he sees, we should desire to only want to be seen by him.
Exactly.
When we get to the point to where that no longer becomes a point of gravitating to, or a point of pursuit, then we have to ask ourselves, just like you said, who do we want to be seen by? Why do you want to be seen? And that's a heart check question.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, and then you mentioned comparison. So often it's I see this, so you're seeing something that a lot of times is not even true. And you're grabbing hold to that. Now you're embedding that. Now in you grabbing that, you don't even realize that you're bringing in the same spirit that you quote unquote are seeing.
Exactly.
So now in this place of I want to be seen, or I don't feel seen, now we're looking at not from the lens of how God wants us to be seen, or how we should be desiring to want to be seen by him. We're now looking at it from a carnal place. Wow.
There has been so many times where I'm working a 9 to 5, I'm cooking every day, I'm cleaning every day, I'm keeping myself cute, I'm taking care of the kids, I'm supporting, and I'll say for this, I'm supporting my husband in every journey, I'm supporting my kids in every sport activity, every academic activity. Y'all don't see how hard I'm trying to be the best mom and wife that I can be. Y'all don't see how many times I go to bed and my body aches and my heart is sore. Just all those things that I really literally mean your heart is sore. I'm pouring it out and I'm giving you all everything that I have. Y'all don't see me. Y'all don't go to check in and say, hey, are you doing okay? Hey, do you need anything? Hey, can I bring you something to eat? Can I cook for you? It should be more than just Mother's Day and my birthday. But I had to stop. Because I wanted that validation from my family. I wanted that validation from my friends. I wanted that validation to say, hey, you're doing a good job. I wanted to be seen. When I got frustrated, when I got overwhelmed, when I got tired of doing all of the things for everybody, I wanted you to hear that I'm frustrated without me telling you. I wanted you to hear all the things. We have this expectation that we want our loved ones and those around us to know what we're going through, but God sees it. Your validation should come from him every time. God sees how hard you're trying to raise them kids. He sees how hard you're trying to run that business. He sees how hard you're trying to be a wife and take care of your health. He sees it. And then when we listen to the voices that are counseling us, mentoring us, yes, those things are good. But ultimately, you need to hear from the Father first. Before you hear from anybody else, before sometimes we even get into our own heads and start speaking, what is God saying? Is he pleased? Because that's the only person I'm trying to please now. Now, has it always been that way? No. Because at one point, I'm like, I'm cooking. I'm cleaning. I'm doing all the things. How do you not see me? How do you not see how hard I'm trying to support you? Especially for me with my husband being in ministry. I've always done some level of ministry, but he did a little bit more, okay? And at one point, it was like, I'm supporting you in every aspect of me because I wasn't where I was supposed to be. Let me say that. I'm supporting you in every venture, every activity, every, speaking engagement and everything. How do you not see how hard I'm supporting you? How do you not see how I'm even suffering in that? I had to stop asking those questions. Who do I want to see me? And I've never been the type of person that wants to be seen by anybody. Let me say that first. But I wanted to be validated by those that I loved the most, those that I gave to the most, those that I poured out to the most. But then when I started shifting my focus to where, am I doing it for them or am I doing it for you, Lord? It's nice to say that your children and your family, your household is your first ministry, because it is. But whose ministry are you building? Are you building your ministry or the divine ministry that God has appointed to you? I had to start saying, whoa, wait a minute. Lord, do you see me? Lord, do you see that I'm striving to be a Proverbs 31 woman? Do you see that I'm cooking, Lord? Do you see that I'm praying for my husband? Because even if they don't see it, and sometimes they never will, Sometimes your family will never see your sacrifices. They'll never understand your tears.
Yeah.
God does.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it for the Lord and the Lord alone,
Yeah.
you'll start shifting how you feel being seen and how you feel being heard.
Wow. That's so good. Lord, do you see? That's a question. That's a profound question. We have to shift our asking. And I'm not, and I want to be clear in this. We're not saying don't ask questions.
Right.
But there comes a point where you're doing it from a place, just like we were talking about validation, about, even subliminally, you're doing it from that place. But at the end of the day, before we even go to our husbands, before we go to our friends and wherever else you may be an outlet to, God, do you see? Not only God, do you see, are you pleased?
Exactly.
Because he could see, and he could be looking down here like, I see, and I'm not
pleased.
Right.
I ain't, look, yes. my head ain't in none of that.
Come on.
None of that.
Come on. So that's so good, because that's something that we should be posturing our level of questioning when it comes to whatever we feel like we are not being seen in. God, do you see it? Not only do you see it, are you pleased in it? Yeah. Because because honestly, yes, he sees all, but at the end of the day, there's certain things that, and I hope y'all hear me when I say this, he sees, but he don't see. So at the end of the day, like, he sees all things, but the things that he sees are the things that are holy, righteous. So he sees the sin. That's good. But he's not concerned. He's concerned from the point of, I don't want you to indulge in those things, but I see the things that you're doing for me. Mm-hmm. The things that you're doing outside of me, I don't see that, and I don't want to see that, because that's disrupting to me as as the Lord is looking down on us. And we just have to really think about that and really meditate on, God, do you see? Wow, that's so good. I really pray that y'all are, I told you I had to take some notes, because even in this moment, I'm gonna go back and do it again, because these are some great questions, powerful testimony, but really some great things to sit with, because at the end of the day, as we are moms, if you're married, not married, single, we touched on a little bit of everything in this conversation. Ministry, there's some things that we have to understand and know, that along this journey as a mom, there's different seasons, and we talked about it even this morning, there's a certain time in as things go, and we have to know, okay, God, what are you calling me to? How are you calling me to adapt? What are you calling me to maneuver in? What does that look like? And that only is going to come purely from communicating that with the Lord. Yeah. So I pray that y'all have really grasped hold to the wisdom that has been spoken, because these things are these questions that I say it's a charge, because at the end of the day, if we are being prompted to go to the Father to ask of his heart and his concern, that's far more important than anything else. And so even in the moments of grief and all of those different things, like, we have to go to God in that, because he is the ultimate and the only one that can help us to get through those times. There's nothing that anybody can say that can help us to journey through seasons that we have no understanding of. Yeah. Only the Father has Absolutely. That. But he places people in the earth that are hearing from him, attentive to him. But the only way that you're going to know that it's coming from him is what we talked about. We got to be in our word. Yeah. We got to have that relationship. Yes. So I pray that y'all are building your intimacy with God, as we talked about, so that you will know when God is speaking to you through someone and helping you to see what it is that God needs you to do in those particular seasons of your life. I pray that y'all enjoyed this conversation. It's been so good, so rich. Pastor Maiysha, I want to let you and allow you to share anything on your heart in this moment for the moms, and how they can connect with you. So You got the floor, sis.
I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you. Kiara listen, this woman gets me together, okay? I cannot not say how much she has been a blessing in my life, how her coming into my life has just encouraged me in Christ, has encouraged me to go further. I will say for those moms that are out there, whether you feel alone, whatever facet that you're in as a mother, build community with other women of God. That has been one of the best things that has ever happened to me, is building community with other women of God, helping me learn how to raise my children even at their big grown age. I want to just say thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you for allowing me to share. I told her I was super nervous. She don't play no games. She told me I was coming and I was going to be on the spot. But in all seriousness, I just encourage every woman of God, every mother out there to keep going in the things of God. Know that in the midst of wherever you are in your parenting, that God will always be there. He will always be there. He will never leave you. He will never put you in a place that again, as moms, he gave us those children for a reason. It's not in vain. It's not in vain that you're raising that child. Whether you're single, married, divorced, grieving mothers, just all mothers in every capacity, allow God to do the heavy lifting that you cannot. Yeah. So that's all that I have. You can get in contact with me through email. I don't have no business page or nothing, but you can get in contact with me through email.
We working on her, y'all. We working on getting her established in the media world, okay?
Yes.
So at this time, you can scan the QR code on her Instagram, Pastor Maiysha. Y'all can scan the QR code and get connected with her. She only got one picture up right now, but we working on the woman of God, okay?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, but I love you so much. I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful beyond words. You know what you mean to me, and when I tell y'all, this is a woman who is truly carry the heart of God. She truly, when you talk about grace, when you talk about peace, when you talk about just joy, like she is all of that and more. So I'm so honored. I'm so grateful.